Hatutaki ukora ya nomination. Na katiba ya Kenya inasema IEBC has a role to conduct party primaries. Na ile pesa watatumia, the resources they will use to conduct party primaries is provided in law, and Parliament has budgeted for those resources. So tunaambia marafiki zetu, ndugu zetu wa CORD hasa ODM, kwa vile nyinyi mmekuwa na tabia ya kuuza certificate, you sell your nomination certificate to the highest bidder. That is not how Jubilee wants to do.
Those sentiments by Majority Leader of the National Assembly, Aden Duale, forms the basis of our discussion. This definitely our top story. Should the IEBC have any business involving itself in party primaries with just 6 months or barely 6 months to the general election? That is a conversation I will be having here in studio with political analyst Dismas Mukua, and definitely we'll also love to hear from you. Continue tweeting us about this. Do you think the IEBC should be involved in party primaries? And of course, our reporter Elvis Kosgei will also be speaking to a panel in Eldoret on the latest survey and whether members of parliament, the incumbents, are likely to get re-elected in the next 6 months on the August 8th polls. Elvis Kosgei will also be speaking to us from Eldoret, and of course Mark Namaswa will also be joining us from our city centre studios. A very good afternoon to you. Thank you very much for joining us here on KTN News Desk. Let's first take a look at the highlights. Court acquits MPs Moses Kuria and Ferdinand Waititu of hate speech charges. Political parties to start submitting their party nominations rules. And National Super Alliance principals are set to sign a coalition agreement. Good afternoon. Our sign language interpreter is Meresha Owiti, and I am Akisa Wandera. We begin from the corridors of justice, where the Nairobi Principal Magistrate has acquitted MPs Moses Kuria and Ferdinand Waititu of hate speech charges, citing a lack of evidence. Principal Magistrate Charity Olwoch ruled that the English and Swahili translations provided as part of the evidence in the case were incorrect. Both Kuria, who represents Gatundu South constituency, and Waititu, who is the Kabete Member of Parliament, were facing incitement to violence charges. They were arrested alongside 4 other MPs in what was commonly referred to as the Pangani 6, in reference to the police station where they were remanded in June last year. In her ruling, the magistrate concluded that the video content of the evidence adduced in court could have been altered or edited. Now, political parties are today expected to start submitting their party nominations rules to the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, IEBC. It is an exercise that will take 14 days and will essentially determine what procedures will be used by individual parties in undertaking nominations. All political parties are required to submit their nomination requirements within those days. After receiving the party membership list on March the 19th, the Commission will then not allow anybody to decamp. Several aspirants have been shifting allegiance from one party to another as the deadline draws close. Parties will be required to submit the names of candidates for party primaries to the IEBC, an exercise that will last for 10 days commencing March the 26th to April the 5th. Candidates and dates of primaries will be gazetted, following which nominations shall take place between April the 13th and April 26th. After the party primaries, there will be a dispute resolution period by political parties, and once that is cleared, symbols to be used during the August elections will be submitted to the IEBC. And still on the same, so as parties prepare to submit their nomination rules, a fresh clash is looming between Jubilee Party and the opposition after the ruling party struck a deal with the Electoral Agency to conduct its primaries. Jubilee Party head of Secretariat Raphael Tuju met with top officials of the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, where they deliberated on the process. Tuju and IEBC Chairman Wafula Chebukati announced that each side will form a three-member team to come up with modalities of conducting the nominations. Opposition coalition, on the other hand, has threatened to seek legal redress if the electoral body agrees to supervise the Jubilee Party nominations, which are scheduled for April. CORD maintains that the law is not clear on who will fund the exercise. CORD said the Political Parties Disputes Tribunal has no jurisdiction whatsoever to handle nomination disputes supervised by the IEBC, as the jurisdiction is vested in the Commission pursuant to Article 88 of the Constitution and cannot be donated. All right, and that, of course, forms the basis of our discussion this hour with Dismas Mokua, a political analyst. Thank you very much, Dismas, for joining us here. And this is a story that we have covered extensively since Tuju and Chebukati announced that they have modalities on how they will work out this party primary issue. But with just 6 months to the general election, does the IEBC have any business wanting to get itself entangled in party primaries?
Well, ideally, IEBC must not participate in the party primaries because what is going to happen, without any doubt in anybody's mind, is that there are going to be losers and winners during the party primaries. And if IEBC does supervise the party primaries, the losers are going to drag the reputation of IEBC through the mud. And subsequently, by the time we get to the general election, there'll be a good percentage of Kenyans who don't think that IEBC is going to conduct a free and fair general election, and that's their primary mandate. So I think it's really a bad idea for the political parties in Kenya to try and have IEBC supervise their party primaries. That's unacceptable. And then number two, if IEBC does the party primaries, they may create some sort of an acceptable relationship with the winners, because there's going to be a very intimate relationship between the various political parties and IEBC officials. And as we go towards the general election, then one can begin to ask several questions whether or not IEBC will be immune from those relationships. So really, I think it's a bad idea. And this goes back to our National Assembly and the leadership in Kenya, both Jubilee and NASA, that there is no forward planning. Because one would have expected, if really the National Assembly and Senate wanted an organization to supervise the party primaries, they should have formed a body similar to IEBC, but whose only mandate is to supervise party primaries. But you see, because for some reason they were not forward-looking, they decided to mix up issues.
Party primaries in this country are the dirt of everything in politics. It's murky waters that, of course, many analysts have said the IEBC shouldn't really get itself entangled. But Jubilee's argument is that this is the only way we will have a free and fair nomination exercise. What do you think about these sentiments?
Well, again, you know, when you say that we have political parties in Kenya, we are making fundamental assumptions. You are comparing Kenya, say, to the West, where you have political parties anchored in ideologies. Political parties in Kenya are special purpose vehicles for all the politicians. And nobody, not even Jubilee, wants a free and fair party primary, because what they do is that the political leadership would like to give their favorites some sort of direct nominations. And you see it's already happening within Jubilee in Nairobi. There's worry that the favored candidate for the gubernatorial seat is going to be Peter Ken. And so nobody is really interested in the free and fair party primaries. But even that notwithstanding, there's been a ruling by Justice Mativo, who has said that political parties, their primaries, cannot be financed by the National Treasury. And he said there's no provision in law which allows such kind of an intervention to take place. Because he says the money from the National Treasury under the Political Financing Act is supposed to finance political parties' administrative operations. So it's only for administrative purposes. It's not supposed to be for party primaries. And in the unlikely event that you allow the national government to finance political party primaries, then what happens to the people who are going to run as independents? There's going to be a bit of discrimination. So it's a pity that the majority leader, Adan Duale, has not gone through the ruling by Justice Mativo to actually understand that essentially what Justice Mativo has done is to outlaw that.
We'll be getting back to the sentiments by the majority leader, Adan Duale, but the law does not entirely rule out IEBC from helping parties or individuals to conduct party primaries, but the IEBC is mandated to arbitrate or to resolve the disputes that will arise from the party primaries.
Yeah.
So will they be putting themselves in an awkward position where they will be acting as a resolver in a case where they were part of?
One hopes that the new commission, chaired by Mr. Chebukati, is going to embrace wisdom, because there's no way you'll conduct the party primaries and then 50% of the participants, the losers, again come back to you telling you that the party primaries were not free and fair, and expect for you to give an honest ruling or an honest judgment. Then after participating in the party primaries, the way you've indicated that they're going to be murky, and that's the case, it's going to be a nightmare for them to run a free and fair party primary. And as we approach the general elections, and considering all the mischief at the IBC, I don't think right now they're in the state of mind where they can do party primaries and at the same time do the general election. So I think for me, the party primaries should make a very good attempt, or rather the political parties should have a very good attempt at having free and fair party primaries at their own cost. And if they're unable to do it, they can look for all these companies doing logistics in Kenya to assist them, so that we leave IEBC to conduct the general elections.
In the past few months, we've been seeing the IEBC try to build up the public confidence that has been lacking in that particular institution as we head into another election. If they give in and conduct these party primaries and unfortunately they end up being murky, what would this do to them in the run-up to the general election in terms of public confidence in this very important institution?
You know, several things have happened in the past. Mr. Raila Odinga and the people in NASA all along have claimed that IBC has not been structured in a manner where they have predictable systems for unpredictable outcomes. And nobody within the old IBC even ever admitted that they actually made a mistake. But the new commission has come up and is trying to build predictable systems. It's trying to be very transparent. You remember, even admitted that there was a double registration of about 128,000 voters. And that's the kind of confidence-building measures that we need. So in the process of creating that confidence, you do not expect the political parties again to drag him back to the mud and start saying that come and do our party primaries. Because party primaries in Kenya will never, ever be free and fair. The special purpose vehicle, as they are, they've got their own owners, and it's the owners who are going to determine who is going to be the winner or who is going to be the loser. So I think it's only prudent for Jubilee to accept reality that IBC, as it is structured today, is not competent and it doesn't have capacity to do party primaries and also do the general elections, if only for reputation purposes.
Looking at the timelines that we have, there's worry that we might not be able to beat the timelines that we have, given the court case or the ruling made by Justice George Odunga to disqualify the whole tendering process of ballot papers. And the IEBC said this takes them a few steps back. So we're looking at the timelines that we have. We're looking at the party primaries. Currently, in the next 14 days, political parties will be submitting their rules of how they will conduct their business of party primaries. The fact that the IEBC, given the meetings and the deliberations they've had with with Jubilee, it looks that they're actually considering this. Should we be worried as Kenyans that even if we will have elections, they would not be completely prepared for?
No, Mr. Chebukati again has indicated that as we speak today, the commission is ready to have the elections given the timelines. And the ruling by Justice Odunga was not made in isolation. Justice Odunga is a very clever man, and he knows that we must have the election on August 8th. And the people who are making suggestions, suggesting that we will not be ready on August 8th, is a few number of members of the National Assembly and the Senate who want to earn another salary maybe for another 4 months or 5 months. It's not out of genuine desire. There's a bit of dishonesty when you look at the way they're speaking. And Justice Odunga's ruling was informed by the fact that you have commissioners who are essentially out of office taking decisions on behalf of the new commissioners. Because if anything happens, if something goes wrong with the tender or with the elections, it's the current commissioners who will take liability. The buck stops with the new team of Chebukati. So there's no way any rational man would have accepted that Chebukati takes liability over decisions taken by a previous commissioner. And you recall the reason why people were in the streets is they said the old batch of commissioners did not conduct the elections in a manner which was free and fair. And Justice Odunga deserves a pat on the back by making that ruling. But really, I think at the end of the day, all of us should cooperate with IBC to ensure that we have predictable systems where every single Kenyan knows that this is what is happening at IBC. The only thing which must be unpredictable is the outcome.
All right. Dismas, thank you very much for joining us and for that analysis. Dismas Mukua is a political analyst, and as I mentioned earlier, our reporter Elvis Koskei also has a panel down at our Eldoret offices, and I will be throwing it to Elvis Koskei now. Of course, before we get into our discussion on members of parliament and the survey conducted by Ipsos Synovate, could you kindly just let your guest comment on the party primaries and the possibility of IEBC conducting them?
Thank you very much, Akisa. Here in Eldoret, Uasin Gishu County, where with me I have three political analysts in the North Rift region. I have Kiprotich Cherargei, also have Zephania Yego, who is an Eldoret-based lawyer, and also we have Livingston Talel. We'll be discussing matters that surrounds the issue that was raised by the polling company Ipsos Synovate, which say that in Rift Valley we have 45% of the respondents think that they will not re-elect their member of parliament. So this means that angry voters await their political leaders come August 8th during the general election. Thank you very much, Zephania. Livingston, just tell us your view on the Ipsos Synovate.
I would say 50-50. I would agree with it partially. But, you know, the MPs, the voters have their report card. So they'll mainly be rating them on issues of development and maybe other critical issues that are affecting their voters. For example, when you look at the North Rift, they'll be looking at issues like insecurity. What has the MP done to deal with the issues of insecurity? We'd also be looking at issues of development. So I would believe that the MPs will be rated mainly on what they have done to the voters. And look at issues also like water, look at issues like roads. It really means a lot for them. So I would believe that the voters will be rating the MPs based on their performance. Also, the issue of party affiliation may also be an issue because, you know, the North Rift or maybe the Rift Valley, it's a Jubilee zone. So it depends on how they are going to conduct the nominations. So if you win, if you come out as an MP and you win the ticket, then your chances of re-election would also be on the higher side. Okay. But generally, I would believe that the voters are looking at what the MPs have done. Okay. Yeah.
Kiprotich Cherargei, the issue of defection, do you think it will play a big role come August 8th general election?
Yes, I think it will play a big role, especially if you have defected from the main party, that is Jubilee, because voters normally are the harshest to the people who are disloyal to the party. So if somebody will defect from Jubilee, then they are most likely they will be punished harshly by the voters. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Let's also hear from Zephania Yego.
Right. First of all, I want to say that voters are very dynamic, and particularly in Rift Valley. Rift Valley is a very dynamic voting bloc. Yes. If you recall, in 2007, Rift Valley produced the highest number of female MPs. Mm-hmm. And again, if you recall, in 2013, Rift Valley produced the highest number of youthful legislators. Mm-hmm. So you are dealing with a very dynamic voting bloc. Mm-hmm. Rift Valley has always led the way in that respect. Okay. Regarding the question of defections, there is a concern generally across all the political divide, the entire political divide, mm-hmm. that indeed people want political hygiene introduced, so that a legislator who is seen to have been betrayed that political party is disciplined by the electorate. Okay. So it applies across the political board. Those who are seen as having defected are dealt with harshly by the electorate.
Thank you very much. I'm told our time is up. You've heard from the political analyst in the North Rift region, and they say come August 8th elections, then we think the voters maybe in the North Rift region will either re-elect their leaders. That's according to the Ipsos Synovate, which conducted their survey of 2,057 respondents between January 6th and 29th of this year.
Elvis, thank you very much for that. Our reporter Elvis Koskei joining us live from Uasin Gishu County. And at this point, we will take a short commercial break. Don't go too far. We still have a lot lined up for you here on KTN News Desk.